So we've had the privilege over the years to be used by God to make impacts on people's lives here in this community and around the globe. It is one of our core beliefs. It is one of our central missions to be used by God to touch other people's lives with the love of Jesus Christ in all kinds of ways. And we're going to hear today about two of the ministries that we're invested in. And it's not just a travel log, it's just not informational. I hope that in hearing today you would be inspired to be a part of one of these ministries or some other ministry, or be led by God to begin your own ministry with people in this community to help them out in Jesus' name. So Gary, and Dan, you're going to come up together. Okay, so our ministry in Tanzania, in the Nukungi village, was started by Don Etzel. And Don, just raise your hand. We want to thank you today. Okay. And it has continued over the years. Gary, how many times have you been there? 12 times. So we are invested in that community. So Gary, thank you for going again, and Dan, you going this year, and let us know kind of what's happening there and with the work that we've got.
All right. Habari asubuhi. Habari asubuhi. Good morning. Good morning. Last Sunday, we celebrated the resurrection of our Lord and reminded again what Jesus Christ has done for us on the cross. That he died, he rose again, that we might be free. As Martin Luther, the Reformer, said, free from worldly influences, free from our own sinful nature, and free from the power of Satan. We have been set free through faith in Jesus Christ, our risen Lord. Free to walk in righteousness with our God. Free to serve our Lord, and free to serve other people in their times and places of need. Because of that, we had the opportunity to once again return to Tanzania, East Africa, to Nkunga Village, where we've been working there since 2004. Dan Dolly was his first trip there this year. Bill Pavlicek, who is from Christ Lutheran in Lebanon, Oregon, he went along as a part of the team. That was his fourth trip over there, and as you heard, I've been there many times. The main purpose of going to this village, first of all, is because God has called us to serve him in that particular place, to use our gifts, our abilities, and the compassion that God has put in our hearts for other people. So it's to go there and just simply to share the compassion of Christ with these people, with God's people there. And also we had three main projects that we wanted to accomplish. The African Smile Board said, first of all, we want you to build another duplex for men who have been afflicted with leprosy. So we built two more units, resident units, completed that, built 2 beds, a table, completely furnished the house with everything that they needed, plus a little cook shack that they can cook in. That was one of the projects. The other one was we started a duplex 2 years ago with the intention that Chertoleko, which is the organization for the lepers in that community, that they could rent out these buildings or these duplexes and have income coming in so that they then can pay for food for the lepers or any medical needs they may have, that sort of thing. So this year we completed one half, or the other half, and it's ready to be rented out. And then the third project was that we were to put in a foundation for the primary school in the village. K through 7, there are 1,340 kids going to that school, and only 15 teachers, which means there's 90 kids per teacher. And it's amazing. You go there and all these kids, and I told the principal, you know, you've got to stop, you have to tell your parents in the village to stop having kids. He just laughed. So, kindergarten alone, there were 224 kids, so, and 2 teachers. So, we got a foundation in, and hopefully then the next trip that the team goes, they can start building some housing for teachers in the public schools. So we got there about a week and a half. We found out. Maybe go to the next slide. We got, there you see the buildings that we built for the lepers and the foundation. The well, we found out that we put in 2 years ago, a brand new well, was not working. So we had to spend about $6,000 putting in a new well or new pump for the well, which is unexpected. Fortunately, we had enough funds to do that, and so the hospital, the nursing school now have water. Remember last fall, there was a plea that went out for money to buy corn for the people in the village. Don Etzel kind of headed that up, and because of the drought last year, the gardens did not produce adequate food supply for these people. So this congregation, many of you in this congregation, along with people at Christ Lutheran in Lebanon, sent money over to Mike Kitawaka, who is our go-to guy on the ground over there, a Tanzanian. He bought corn and had it trucked to the village. There were 21 tons of corn was delivered to that village. 21 tons. So thank you for your generosity and your support. Of that 21 tons, about half a ton, 1,100 pounds, went for seed corn, and that was planted early December when the rain started to come to the gardens. This year when we got there, the gardens looked very dry. However, about a week and a half, the rains really came, and the gardens, when we left, were doing very well, and so it looks like there's going to be plenty of corn now for this next year. The corn was distributed with 3 priorities. First of all, to the lepers in the village, but there's about 180. And then second priority went to the sick and the elderly. And the third priority went to families who were in great need of food. And when we left, there were 45 bags left, and that'll be enough to be distributed very cautiously to those in need and until the gardens are producing again. So that was basically what we accomplished. And the next slide, there were many, many blessings. We'd keep here for a couple hours telling about all the blessings that we received, but Dan, I'll let you share.
When I've gone through my slides, the people who were generous enough to give me their time, it's been anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half, and the hour and a half part I still didn't finish, so I'm not going to keep you here for an hour and a half. But one morning, every morning we had breakfast, Bill and Gary and I, and then Wilson, our foreman, would show up. And one morning I asked Gary about his day, and he said, I don't know. I've never experienced today yet, or never experienced today before. And I thought that would be one of the thoughts I'd share with you, is how that little statement opened up things for me even more. So Doug talked about us going there to help them. And kind of like Stan said when he came back, he went there to change Africa, but Africa changed him. So I did go there to help. I intentionally tried to remove any expectations I had. And it took about a week to realize all the expectations I never admitted to. And one of the things that I experienced was being helped. I was not helped with getting fresh water, not helped with being fed well, but I was helped with letting go of the things, the distractions that kept me from seeing and being with God more present, more clearly each day. And the kids, Roger Bighouse donated some soccer balls. He's been good friends since he went with the headmaster at the primary school. So these kids in the upper left are walking back with their uniforms on, their football uniforms. And it was reminded me of a Nike commercial. These kids just strutting across the courtyard. And the kids are just delightful. Got to see a little bit of nature, a chameleon. It's pretty unusual. One day after the rains, it was sitting there in the track of the road play. Some African ingenuity. You see the carpenters I worked with on the upper right, and them at work in the middle on the left. And my wife Ellen went there 2 years ago, and she insisted I take this big bag full of clothes and shoes. And I said, what on earth? I mean, can't they get this stuff there? When I showed up, I found out, no, they can't get that stuff there. And so there was only one suitcase, and there were 80 people that showed up with our meeting with the leper community in Chartaleco. And I wanted to give the clothes to the board so then they could figure out who they needed to go to, and no one would feel slighted. And the board chairman said, no, we need to give them here at this meeting. I said, it sounds like a bad idea. He said, no, it'll be okay. I said, if you say so. And it really was amazing. He stood up there and he said, we have clothes. And it was a little like a fish and loaves thing. We emptied the suitcase onto the table, and it was just this mound of clothes. I couldn't believe that it came out of a suitcase. And Sammy got up there and said, so we have these things here. Not everyone's going to get something, but the people in most need will have something. And they went and picked people out. And the first couple were pretty tentative, but after the third or fourth person, the crowd started pointing out, no, they need it now. They're next. And the other people, so the people were in that community pointing out the ones that needed the most help. And at the end, you see them on the right and the middle holding up what they got. So it really was an amazing experience. The bottom on the left is a group of women, the Matiglia group, who are widowed or abandoned. They've banded together to find ways to support themselves through baskets, through corn. It really was an amazing experience to see these people, whom we say have nothing, but in fact I went there and I saw they do have something materially, and what they have even more is that they appreciate what they have, and they're thankful for what they have. So that's some of what the help I got. So I'm going to pass it back to Gary.
Dan was a great blessing to be on the team. He fit right in, and we put him to work, and he really worked at learning the Swahili language and really connected with people in a special way. And I know he was a blessing to many. And the blessings that I've received are just overwhelming. The morning we left the village, heading home, it was pouring rain. I mean, Oregon, the rain here is nothing compared to the downpour that we got there, a tropical rainstorm. Water was filling up the ditches, pouring over the roads, and just coming down, and heavy, heavy rain. And I was thinking, after we got through that rainstorm, how in this whole trip I had been washed in the blessings of God. It was such a downpour of blessings from the people there. First of all, just their spirituality. We went out on Sunday mornings and worshiped with 3 different congregations. The first congregation, it was a huge congregation. They were still constructing. It had a roof on, very, very high pitch, probably at least as high as this church. And I was preaching on Psalm 121, to lift up my eyes to the hills, where does my help come from? And Bill was sitting in church and looking up and looking at all the bats hanging down from the roof. But just to be able to worship with those people, their faith was very genuine, very deep, and it came through their music, it came through their hospitality, their gratitude for what God has given to them. And to me, that was just a tremendous blessing to see that. These are God's people. believers in Jesus Christ, and to be able to, in a sense, come alongside of them. Their friendship was another one. Of course, I've been back many times, had many, many friends there, and just to renew those friendships and just to be with those people in that village at that time. And also just the dedication of the people at the hospital, the nursing school, how they care for their own people and dedicated. They feel God has called them to these particular ministries, and how they have given in many ways generously and provided the help that is needed for God's people in that community. So that was just some of the blessings that I shared was there. And again, I just so grateful that Dan was there and Bill and to have that kind of companionship too. There's only 3 of us, but we were able, because of that, to hire some national carpenters and masons too, which provided income for them and their families, and also some training as well. Next slide, please. Future projects. There are things that need to be done yet to continue building on the duplex for the teachers' houses. One of the biggest needs in the community was for water, they said. Out of the 19 wells, only 3 were working in the community, so there's a real need for us to provide money so they can repair the wells and have fresh, clean water. And the hospital itself was built in the mid-1960s, and it just needs a lot of renovation and repair, painting and new ceilings and just all kinds of things. So we're hoping that this will be a focus for our next mission team. So there's needs for carpenters, for nurses. You can teach at the nursing school, work at the hospital. If you say you have no skills, just come. We'll find something for you to do. And there's plenty of work there. Also, at the end of our trip, we had the opportunity to go through a couple of the national parks and spend 2 days seeing the wildlife. It's just like God's outdoor zoo. And Dan was reminded us a couple of times we came across these lions lying in the road. And the wildlife all around, giraffes and hippos and wildebeests and zebras and elephants and on. So again, just to be blessed by God's creation in that way. That's a baobab tree, and you can see me standing there off to the right of it, the blue, huge trees, One last thing that we want to share. There was always the unexpected, the unusual that happens when you're over there, and I'll let Dan explain that to you.
So I know we're over, Pastor, but beg for forgiveness. So African ingenuity is a dichotomous culture of people waiting to be told what to do, but having unlimited imagination in solving problems. And Gary and I were standing in front of a tenant duplex that was being worked on, and there was no electricity there. And of course, we need electricity primarily to drive screws. The people weren't turning screws by hand. And Wilson, our foreman, shows up and said, "We need to take the generator now." And this was at 4 o'clock. Work didn't stop till 5. Said, "Can you wait?" He says, "No, it needs to happen now." And he's saying, "Well, what's going on?" He says, "There's a patient in the hospital. He's on an oxygen machine, and he needs more help than we can give him here. We need to take him to Hyden." Hyden is an hour away on a dirt road, and at that point it was still dry, but there had been some rain. And he said, "Okay, so why do you need the generator?" He said, "Well, the oxygen machine needs to be plugged in. It needs electricity." I said, "But don't you have oxygen to go?" He says, "No. So we're going to put the oxygen machine in the Land Cruiser with the patient, and we're going to put the generator on top so we can run the oxygen machine while we're driving this hour over a bumpy dirt road to the hospital." Gary and I looked at each other in shock, and I said, "There's got to be a plan B." No, there is no plan B. And so Gary and I said, You know, the only thing we could think of doing was praying, because we never would have attempted it. And so there's a picture of the generator sitting on top of Land Cruisers as they're loading it up. And they took off, and they only had to stop once to restart the generator. It didn't rain on them. And the patient was a newly born baby delivered by C-section that had heart issues. Got to the hospital, and so they're both doing fine now. And it was because of Wilson's quick thinking and this insatiable will that African people have to make whatever they have work. And it really is amazing. It comes back to appreciating what's in front of you and not waiting for a new solution to show up, but really think, what can we do now? So.
Before we left, we donated a 6-liter oxygen tank to the hospital to be used in case of emergencies. And they had no such thing at the hospital. So again, it saved the life of that infant girl. And so we just want to thank you for your prayers and your support for African Smile. If you have any questions, if you'd like to volunteer, just talk to the table back there and talk to us. Talk to any members of the African Smile Board, and we'd be glad to have you come along and to share that unique experience of being in another culture with God's faithful and truly believing people. So.
And then we're going to spend a few more minutes hearing about another ministry that we are invested in, that we're passionate about, that we pray for and support with all of our resources. And I want to invite Chelsea forward. Royal Family Kids Ministry, and there's a theme here. And who started that? Don Etzel. Would you raise your hand, Don? Okay. Along with Joni McNeil. Started this years ago, and it's grown and grown, and now Chelsea is our congregational coordinator. And Chelsea, just share a few minutes of what Royal Family is all about and how we can be involved.
All right, we're actually going to start with a short video. All right. So if you're not familiar with Royal Family Kids Camp, we do a week-long summer camp, well, Monday through Friday summer camp for kids who are currently in foster care or who have been in foster care, ages 7 to 11. The goal is to bring them out, teach them about God, show them a safe environment, show them what it means to be around people that love them. And ultimately what we're trying to do is fight these statistics, because statistics show that kids who have gone through foster care do not fare well later in life. So we are out there doing the best that we can, ages 7 to 11, to set a firm foundation so that we can make sure that the campers that we have don't look like the numbers up on this slide. So if we go to our next slide, so this is one of our campers, 7 years old, Jenna, cute as can be. She came to camp at 7, was at camp with us for 5 years. She was actually, our third of 4 siblings that came from the same family. Pretty significant abuse and neglect in the home. Kids were removed, ended up in separate homes, so she was separate from all of her siblings. Came out to camp. Our next slide shows Jenna with her counselor, Valerie Rippey, if you know Valerie at all. So Valerie had Jenna all 5 years at camp out there. So they had a really great bond. Jenna ended up graduating. All of the family, all of the 4 kids are back home with their biological mom. We have worked to support this family because things at home are not fantastic. However, the way that Royal Family works is that we have them from 7 to 11. We graduate them, and then that's kind of the end of it. So Royal Family has some pretty strict rules around not exchanging information with them. So we kind of, at 11, graduate them, and we have to be okay with giving them back to God and trusting that He's going to watch over them for us. So going to our next slide here, this is Jenna coming back this last year at camp at 15 as a junior counselor. So the bottom right there, she's there with Valerie. So she was the junior counselor in Valerie's cabin. So she thought it was pretty cool to be able to come back and be a junior counselor with the counselor that she had all that time. So I can say Jenna's home life is still not fantastic. Again, she was one of 4 kids that we had. We've graduated all 4 from that family. I think that she is the only one that is still attending school. She's the only one that really gets out of the house. She's the only one that really has any sort of life outside of the home, and the home is not a good place. So we are just super proud of her and looking at her, and this is proof to us that we can make a difference in 5 days. We can make a difference in 5 days over 5 years. The next slide, this is our Royal Family Kids Camp team from last year. And I don't know if you can find Jenna in that picture, but she is front and center there. Happy as could be to be out at camp. She came out every year at camp. We give the kids, we send them home with a photo album. For many of our campers, those are the first photos that they've ever had of themselves. And so that's our Friday before we put them on the bus, is kind of this really cool, I don't know how to describe it other than a family moment where all of the kids get together and we hand out their photo albums, and they're looking and reminiscing on memories from the week. And she came out to our counselor break in the volunteer center one night with all of her photo albums, showing us all of the pictures. So she is definitely our proof that what we're doing works. And so we're going to keep doing it for kids like her. Every now and then one comes back and reminds us why we put in the hard work and the hours and the prayers. And then there's a lot like Jenna that we don't see their successes. So that's kind of, she's our poster child for what we do with Royal Family. So our next slide talks about how you can get involved. So we have, kind of like African Smile, you show up to camp, we'll find something for you to do. We are looking for full-time counselors who are out there with the kids all day long. We are looking for relief counselors that come in the evenings and relieve the full-time counselors so that they can have a couple hours to themselves. Grandmas, grandpas, aunts, and uncles, these are staff that are just out there, support staff. They're there to help when needed. They might be doing activities, helping with some of the morning stuff. We have arts and crafts, any sports and outdoor activities. We do zip lining, horseback riding, archery, paintball, wood shop, a number of other things, swimming, fishing, kayaking. So always can use help with that. Musicians, actors, actresses, We do a drama. We also have a time known as Breakfast Club in the morning, which resembles kind of like a VBS type of setting. Songs, games, some sort of Bible message goes on there. Pre- and post-camp helpers, decorating, sorting clothes, set up, tear down, registration Monday morning. I will say the decorating, if you have any interest to decorate but you can't be out at camp, I have 4 cabins of men every year that struggle with this. So if you are someone that likes decorating, you would be amazed at how much we could use those skills for decorating a cabin. And then we do a welcome home dinner, and we always need volunteers for that, just so that once our camp volunteers come back, we can kind of let them relax and have someone take care of them because they work very hard that week. Other ways you can help. So if you cannot be out at camp with us, or you can and you want to help in additional ways, shopping with Amazon Smile or Fred Meyer Rewards. In the bulletin, there's a little quarter sheet that has directions for how you can designate Royal Family Kids at both of those places, and we will get a portion of the proceeds that you spend. It doesn't change what you pay at all. It just gives us a little bit of a kickback. Fishing, if you're a fisherman, Kings for Kids fishing tournament. There's an auction and a dinner with that, April 28th. It's coming up. At our table in the back, we have flyers for that, and you can talk to our leadership team if you're interested in that. And then Our Savior's Lutheran Church does a summer golf tournament, usually in July, but they haven't set the date yet. But if you're interested in that opportunity, you can talk with us as well. Timeline of events. So part of the requirement for volunteering at camp is that we train all of our staff because we're working with kids with really unique needs. So new volunteers will do 12 hours of training. Returning volunteers do 8 hours of training. This is a mandatory requirement set for us by Inc. So you can see our new volunteer training. An informational session will be on Sunday, May 20th here at Community of Hope right after the second service. Volunteer applications and background checks are due by June 1st. All new volunteers are interviewed, so there'll be an interview process. And then our all volunteer training is Saturday, June 23rd, and we do that out at camp. That's our one time before camp that we can get everybody together in one place and spend some time together and prepare for camp. And then the final training is on the Sunday night right before camp. We go down Sunday and set up, and then we'll do 2 hours of training and dinner. And then Royal Family Camp is July 30th through August 3rd this year. And then this is just a picture of our graduates from last year. Every year when the kids turn 11, we take them out Thursday night. They get to stay up past bedtime, and we take them to a special campfire. And we do campfire, we do s'mores. Their counselors come out and get to say a word about them. And then they get their RFKC grad shirts that they get to wear home the next day so that they stand out from the other campers. And then every year with Royal Family, there's a theme, and so there's a Bible message that we teach the kids. And part of what we do out there is they'll work to get a dog tag. We've got dog tags for lots of things, and they like to collect them, and they jingle around all week. But we have a Bible verse dog tag. And so when they learn the Bible verse and they say it to Lynn or myself, they get a dog tag. And so this year, our theme is all around construction and building a firm foundation. And so Jeremiah 29:11 is our Bible verse for this year. So if you are interested in helping or finding out how you can help, or you're not sure if you want to help, talk to us at the back. Sometimes we have some volunteers. I think Jono's over here. It took you, 3-4 years to 2 years to get him out there, and now we can't get rid of him. So if you're not quite sure if Royal Family is for you, talk to Jono, and he'll tell you why you just need to bite the bullet and get out there with us. But really, any questions you have, any ways that you think you can help, any skills, chat with us after the service in the back. Thank you. This is our 13th year. Yep, Community of Hope's done it for 13 years. So we have, why don't we do this? We had 87 volunteers last year. If you have volunteered at Royal Family and you're in this room, would you stand up, please, and we'll just show. So if you feel hesitant about coming and talking to the leadership team, talk to one of the people that you see standing right now, and they can give you their experience with camp and why you should come out and join us. So thank you.
So again, I'd like to just take a moment to wrap up. Why do we do this? And there's lots of answers, but to me the simplest answer is because Jesus wants us to do it. In fact, if Jesus was here, he'd be on the African Smile team and he'd be on the Royal Family team. So besides teaching about in the Good Samaritan and other scriptures, besides being an example of putting action in love, I think a verse that just says why we do this is from 1 John 4. That we know God's love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses to help? Little children, let us love not only in word or in speech, but in deed and in action. And thank God that he has given us the ability here as a church and individual believers in Christ to make a difference. And we will continue to glorify God in this way. In Jesus' name.